Alright, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun Reviews. And we're back finally to talk about The Leftovers. We left off on Season 1, Episode 7. We're on Season 1, Episode 8. It's called Cairo. This is actually the second time I've had to record this video. I tried recording it earlier today. My computer, the software for this camera is completely crashing my computer like every 5 minutes it seems. And I had everything done, and I put it all together, and it started playing. It was like the audio from my X-Men Marauders review was mixed in somehow with the audio for this review. So I'm having to re-record this, and so I was really happy with the way it first turned out. Hopefully it turns out all right here. I don't know. What a way to get started when you're trying to reintroduce yourself to reviewing shows that you were previously doing. So, if you're new to The Leftovers, for some reason you're jumping into this episode, a certain percent of the population disappeared. It's about the people left behind and how they're dealing with it. There's a group called the Guilty Remnant who are trying to remind everybody of what happened that day. And let's go. So, we have this really great beginning where Patty Levin's the leader of the Guilty Remnant, and Kevin, the police chief, our main character, our protagonist, they're both doing something, important. She's laying out a bunch of clothes ceremonially, making sure everything looks just right and just so. Meanwhile, Kevin is putting together a nice meal, setting the table, trying to get everything just so himself. Except Patty's little ceremony is for something a lot darker, while Kevin's is about beginnings and starting anew. Meanwhile, both of them not knowing the complications of both things. Both people have plans. Neither of them go the way they want. And so, what we have here is she's got this big binder. Patty has this big binder of everybody, and they've been keeping track of everybody's movements that have lost people. You see this from the two, like Meg watching Nora. When is she leaving the house on this date? And like keeping track of time so that they know when people aren't going to be home. They did this before when they broke into people's houses and took the photos. And they're doing it again. Now, this should have been a red flag. In fact, Nora should have been like, what are you writing down? Said she's being nice. She's got Rice Krispie treats and all that stuff. And Nora's first dinner, though, does not go very well. Now, what I tried to talk about the first time I did this video was was talking about Jill. The actress who plays Jill has a very difficult role this year, and it's her only one shot. Like I've said in other reviews, Jill ends up becoming background basically for Season 2 and pretty much non-existent in Season 3. It's kind of hard, I think, for them to adapt more of the story because there's just the one story, and they expand on it, kind of like they do The Handmaid's Tale. So in the book, that story's kind of over. And this is Jill's character's one chance to tell her part of the story, which is, and it took me, this is probably the fourth time I've watched Season 1. And I didn't appreciate her character and her struggles until this time. Because at first I just was kind of very annoyed with her. Just like, shut up, Jill. Get over it. But this time around, I finally realized, and I know this is probably a no-brainer, like, what's wrong with you? And I think it's because I just didn't like the character very much. And I still don't really like her as a person. But I get her now. And that she's been having to raise herself. They may not have lost. The Garveys may have not actually physically lost anybody in the departure. But after the departure, her father and her mother, her mother goes to be with the Guilty Remnant. She doesn't know why her father is so feels so guilty. She doesn't know that he cheated on everybody the day that it happened. And the fact that, well, we'll get into that. Like, what, the person that Kevin was with, she disappeared while they were having sex. So Kevin's got that. Plus her older brother, at this point, I don't even know if I remember his name. It's been so long that I can't even remember the poor guy's name. Well, his storyline will be over after the season. Well, no, he gets a little bit more to do in season 2. But he left to go do his own thing and ended up with the cult of Holy Wayne. And so she lost her whole family too, just in a different way. And Kevin's been an absentee father because he's got his dad to deal with and the guilty remnant to deal with and the fact that he lost his wife and he's trying to get her back and now he wants to be with Nora. Meanwhile, he's not paying attention to his daughter. And everything she's doing, acting out, all this stuff is her way. Me, pay attention to me. I'm here. I'm still here. And so she's, they're at this dinner, and so she, she already knows that Nora had a gun in her purse, and this woman now is like basically trying, in her mind, possibly taking the place of her mother, not really having a say in it, and so she starts poking the bear. She starts asking about the gun and all this stuff, and even though Kevin's concerned about what, Jill is saying about Nora, she's picking that really wrong time to be rebellious. But Nora doesn't, knows kind of like what's happening, can see what's happening. And so she just, plays her cards on the table. I used to have a gun. I don't have it anymore. I feel safe now. And Jill keeps pushing. Why do you feel safe? What changed? And lets her even look into her purse. And Nora, stays cool throughout the whole thing. Kevin is about ready to blow up. But at the end of the night, she's like saying, don't go back in there and fight with her because that's what she wants. She's looking for a fight. And then, so Kevin then, he goes to sleep. He wakes up in the middle of the woods, in a truck, with the sniper man from all the other that have been shooting dogs. And they've got Patty Levins tied up in his family's, like, when he was younger's cabin, beaten up and tied up. And he's just basically like, what have I been doing when I go to sleep? And that's our beginning. Now, when we come back, we have Megan, like, played by Liv Tyler, just assaulting Matt, played by Christopher Eccleston. And he's been passing out pamphlets that have, the relatives of the people that are part of the guilty remnant. So they're researching us. Now Matt is trying to turn the tables on them, and he's been doing research on them. And he knows that Meg's mother died the day before the departure. And so he's there to kind of like, they took Matt's church out from under him. And for all the holiness that he's trying to do, like, I'm trying to help, blah, 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 there's also, he's very human. And part of this is kind of to stick it to them, to show them, you are, and in my opinion anyway, you're what you're doing. Well, here, how does this feel? How do you feel? Because he keeps saying her name, Megan, come home, Megan, come home, while she's beating him senseless. Because that's how it feels when you talk to the guilty remnant or try to do something with the guilty remnant, where they stonewall you. They don't budge. So he's going after them in the same way, and he's letting her hit him. And she's screaming, and she's breaking her, vow of silence or whatever. And when Lori gets her aside and she's screaming, how can they do this to us? They can't do this to us. That's my mother. Blah, blah, blah. But it's like, it's the hypocrisy. Is that, or at least Meg doesn't understand that hypocrisy. That she's pissed off at this. He's just doing what they do to everyone every day. And she can't handle it. Which, you know, to me says Meg's not really a believer. It comes up later what Matt thinks is wrong with Meg. Because Meg's really screwed up. And I think that that's really, I love that Matt does this, to shine the light on themselves. Like, if you guys want, you know, you want everybody to remember, well, what about you guys? Why is it okay for you to forget everybody else? If you're trying to make us remember, why is it okay for you to forget? Why is it okay for you to just walk away from everybody? I feel like a lot of the hypocrisy in The Guilty Remnant comes out in this episode. Like here with Matt, and then later with Patty and Kevin. With the rest of the Kevin stuff, Kevin, he doesn't remember what happened. He doesn't remember doing any of this. He just knows that they drove all the way out to the family cabin out in Cairo. So they're not even in their town. And that, I feel like Kevin's sleepwalking is more like a DID, like a dissociative identity disorder, where a part of his personality wakes up when he's asleep. His subconscious, the aggravated, the angry, holding inside while he's trying to keep it together while he's awake. His all those real feelings that he's been holding and bottling up are coming out in his sleep, and he just doesn't remember doing it. You know what I mean? It's very like Fight Club, very Tyler Durden-y kind of in a way. I mean, that's how I'm looking at it. You know, it's like the Hulk. You know, the Hulk comes out of him, the one that's willing to find Patty Levins on the side of the road, beat her senseless and tie her to a chair, and then say, it's time to end this. We're going to put you down. But he tells her, look, when he realizes what they've done, what he's done, and this guy helped him do, he's like, we're going to let you go. We're going to, you've been pushing me, and I'm sorry that we did this, but let's just call it even. But that's when you realize that, wow, because Patty had her own plans. She did not intend to be captured by Kevin and brought to a cabin. But now that she's here, she's basically ready to go all the way. To do her thing, to force Kevin and her, to her anyway. To remember, to become, death. To become the reason, to kill. Find something to kill. She would rather die. Because, she says, I don't forgive. And that you're just going to have to man up and do what you came here to do. And that's like, part of me goes, wow, that's like, the strength of her beliefs. But I mean, she's crazy. Okay? Just telling somebody that, because she knows the end game here. She's just like, once she's in this position, she's not leaving this cabin alive. And she's going to make it happen, whether Kevin likes it or not. And Lori, meanwhile, forces Meg to go to Matt's house to apologize. And he lets her in and everything, and Nora's there. And I love this scene. Because, Meg apologizes. Nora just turns around. She's like, she's not sorry. This is all show. This is all, Lori has her own agenda. And, like, when Nora tells her, like, if you're giving away apologies, why don't you go talk to your daughter and give her one of these apologies? I loved that. Because Nora's the new woman in Kevin's life, and Lori has to find out this way and knows that this woman has actually, is interacting with her daughter and knows more about what's going on with her daughter than she does. And as much as Lori would love to believe she's completely forgotten about and moved on from her family, those kind of moments where she's had struggles a little bit here and there of giving it up, that's like a nice little kick in the crotch from old Nora, which is why I love Carrie Coon. I mean, they give her so much good stuff, and her believable, like just her ability at this point to just cut through the bullshit and hit Lori right where it hurts. It's great. Now, Jill and Amy and the Carver twins, I'm always going to call them the Carver twins. That's because I can't remember their characters' names. They're hanging out in the park, and Amy is regaling the twins with the story of Jill being a bitch to Nora. And while part of this story is her saying, Garvey's got these, like just going at her and talking about the gun and everything, but then Nora like fires back and there is no gun and everything, and Jill's sitting there listening to her kind of berate her, and she tries to flip it on Amy and says, "Did you sleep with my dad?" And it's kind of like this betrayal of sorts of like, because they've been letting Amy stay there. We don't know the details, all the details behind why Amy's living there. We really don't. We know that there has to be something that's wrong with her own family, if she has one. Maybe somebody departed there and she took off, but she's been living with the Garveys ever since. And so Jill, thinking, she's being betrayed by her friend, asks her this kind of horrible question to ask somebody. Although there have been a few times where even as an audience member, I've wondered what Jill or Amy's been up to with sleepwalking Kevin, because she likes to walk around the house with not much on. And I know it's not a popular thing to say, but I think she likes doing it. I think she, a lot of these kids are, in other episodes, have shown that they're basically just doing whatever. Like, if you can just up and disappear and never be seen again, then what does anything matter? Why shouldn't I just walk around like this? Maybe I should sleep with my friend's dad, whatever. There seems to be a complete, like, whatever attitude by everybody, especially the young people, I mean. They just, like, you know what I mean? Like, eat, sleep, and eat, drink, be merry, for tomorrow we might blink out of existence. So who cares if I sleep with my friend's dad? There's that kind of attitude. Now, I'm not saying she did it. I'm just saying that that kind of attitude is why Jill probably would bring something like this up. But you can tell by Amy's reaction that that's not what happened, but she's been pushed and now she's pushing back, saying, sure, yeah, you know what, your dad really wanted it, and so we screwed each other's brains out in a pile of guns because of the whole gun thing. And Amy gets up and leaves after pushing her away. We really don't, that's pretty much the end of Amy on the show. I think we see her maybe one other time in this show. I mean, she shows up at the end of this episode, but like, that their friendship is basically broken now. Like, everything about Jill is broken, and now she's pushing like the last person that was there for her away. I also forgot to say that when Nora and Matt were having their little apology, he pretty much breaks down what I said I was going to talk about Meg, which was that her mom died the day of the departure, and there we go. Her mom died the day of the departure. So her mom dies, she's in the beginning of her grieving process, and then everybody disappears. And Matt calls it her grieving was hijacked. And that all of a sudden the whole world, a whole chunk of the world disappears, and what her loss just kind of seems trivial. And she had to think about other things. And I do think that plays a huge role in Meg's motivations. She would not be the first person who joined some group like the Guilty Remnant or some cult looking for answers when there aren't really the ones you want. She just knows that she doesn't like where she is. So anyway. We get to the cabin again where Patty talks about how she does all this research, that her background is in research now, and so that gives a little bit more insight into her character as far as like what she's used to do. Because she turns her attention toward the sniper man, talking about Kevin and like the company that he keeps. And how pretty much anybody that she wants to find something out about, it's right there, really easy to find, no matter, like all the things that you think you keep secret or whatever, she finds. But when it comes to Sniper Man, she can't find anything. Not even a driver's license. So it makes you wonder a little bit, because there was a question earlier in the series, is this guy even real? Is this guy the persona that Matt or Kevin sees as him, like that, as the guy shooting the dogs? Maybe it's really him, but he's seeing another guy as that person. But we find out, like, he is there. Like, Patty sees him for, and she can't find anything on this guy. So it makes me wonder if maybe this guy is CIA or something along those lines, of somebody that gets sent somewhere to kind of get things more volatile, to kind of shake things up, to possibly, help a situation along that needs to be, worked a little bit. Kind of to give Kevin a little bit of doubts on what he's doing and who he's doing it with. We cut back to like what's happening right here, where Jim breaks into Nora's house just to find the gun, just to prove that Nora is as messed up as everybody else. When she finds the gun, I don't know if, I feel like she went in there hoping to find the gun, but at the same time, like, if she doesn't find the gun, she was desperately hoping maybe at the same time that maybe Nora has figured out something that she hasn't, that maybe she can help her father. Maybe, like, there's that equal parts hope and equal parts, like, wanting to be proven right. Because once she finds the gun, she just bails. So, there's, it's a pretty big episode for Jill, Patty, Kevin, and, a lot of people, actually. And Kevin, in the middle of the woods, is trying to call Nora. Which is kind of like this, I like this, it's like this hopeful moment of him, like, he's found somebody new that he feels like he can connect with and help him through, like, some of these problems. But then we realize Kevin finds this campground, and he finds one of his work shirts hanging up on a tree, which is happening right here behind us. Now, earlier in the series, he couldn't find his work shirts. He thought he took them to the laundromat, which leads to it basically almost assaults the laundromat guy into giving him a whole bunch of clean shirts. But now he realizes all the shirts are out in the woods, and that he's been coming to Cairo, sleepwalking, in his sleep, doing God knows what, with God knows who, for who knows how long. Which just pretty much makes him crack. And he realizes, I'm fucking bananas. And so he goes back to get Patty out of there. Like, the cheese has slipped off my cracker. We've got to stop this now. But Sniper Man has already put a plastic over Patty's head and says, like, look, you just let it happen and it's all over, man. But Kevin can't. And so they get into a fight, which leads to Patty's chair getting knocked over and Sniper Man deciding, like, look, you're crazy. I'm out of here. You can deal with it yourself. So Lori and Meg get back to the house. And there's still no Patty. And everybody wants to know if they're still moving ahead with this plan that they're talking about. And that it's still on. And this guy comes and delivers this, in this like U-Haul, like a whole bunch of stuff, and calls them a bunch of sick people. Like, you're real sick. And he takes their money. And I was thinking to myself, okay, well, if they're sick, why did you do this? You're taking money to do something that you know is really messed up. How, and I think that makes him just about as sick as they do, because you're enabling it to happen for money. Anyway, we get Nora comes home, finds the gun, sitting out, like, knows that Jill did this. I mean, there's only one person that could have done this. Jill comes home where they have that feral dog that Sniper Man and Kevin were talking about, that they were like, you said to me one night, that you're going to take one of these dogs and you're going to tame it and you'd owe me $1. Well, this dog just never stops barking. It's like Kevin said, or Sniper Man said, those aren't our dogs anymore. The dogs that saw departures happen, their brains couldn't take it and they snapped and they went feral. She lets the dog go. I guess it's supposed to represent, the freedom, like, I'm letting you go. Kind of like letting other things go. I think it's a pretty terrible idea because you just let a rabid dog, basically a rabid dog loose on everybody. A feral dog. These dogs don't mess around. They took down that elk in season at the first episode. And then Jill, as if leaving her father, freeing the dog and freeing herself, goes to Lori, as if to say, I'm here, I'm going to be a part of this. But Jill's about to be confronted with more realization of her real, just because you don't want to, she's just all messed up. Just going to Lori is not going to solve her problems, because Lori is on a different path, and her kids aren't part of that. So Kevin is trying to tell Patty that I'm going to let you go. But he's like, I want to understand why. Why are you doing all this? And she tells him, that everybody that lived through this basically is forgetting what happened. That they're all moving on. That we should never forget this. We're trying to make you remember what happened. But this is another, like I was saying about the hypocrisy of it, or maybe not the hypocrisy in this case, but just the delusion of it, that any kind of, people that suffer loss and tragedy, everybody deals with it differently. But I don't think any of these people forget what happened. It's like other tragic events in America or anybody's history. The dates and certain things that we remember. Pearl Harbor, JFK assassination, Martin Luther King, Bobby Kennedy, September 11th. I don't think there's a day that goes by that I don't think about at least one of those things. So Patty's whole thing about making people remember, what we're not supposed to move on. We're supposed to be angry. We're supposed to be raging at the heavens of why did this happen, and she's talking about finding reasons to exist or to die for something. But I think that's just part of Patty's just messed up way of thinking. Nobody forgets. Nobody's forgetting, but if you don't, they won't move on from the event. They've been able to shut everyone else out of their lives to make other people remember this terrible thing. It just seems it's insane to me to say that we need to remind you to do it. Like we're all supposed to be walking around going, oh my God, every day, as if people aren't supposed to heal. I feel like she's not asking for people that she doesn't want anybody to heal. She wants everybody to just continue to hurt over this, as if somehow staying hurt's gonna, I don't know. But that's why Kevin won't accept it. And it's bullcrap. And so he, cuts her free. But right before he cuts her free, he asks about Gladys, the woman who was stoned to death, which is we're finally getting to, is he's asking her, if you're willing to do all this, did you murder Gladys? Because when she says something to die for. And she goes, oh yeah, well she was fine with it though. So Gladys, earlier in the season, was tied to a tree, taken against her will, out there and then stoned to death. Who at one point says, don't stop. You question whether or not she was saying don't stop, like just keep going, just keep hitting me? Or was there a point when somebody's hitting you in the face with a fucking rock, if you actually, she was saying, don't stop? Can Patty say that with any certainty that Gladys really was, at the time, maybe she thought she was willing to die, but you take a few rocks to the face, I think there's something to be said for either side. But then she says, when the time comes, and it's coming soon, your wife is going to feel the same way. That she'll be willing to die for this too. But Kevin cuts her free anyway and says that, no, I'm not doing this. And if anything, if you're not going to go to the cops. You're not going to tell on me. Because I'm going to tell them myself. Because this is bullcrap. I'm not going to give in to what you want. In a way, Patty's kind of a terrorist here. And so he cuts her free. And being that she can't get him to do what she wants, to come around to her way of thinking, she stabs herself in the neck with a piece of glass and cuts her own throat. Forcing Kevin to now deal with this again, even, because he wouldn't give in to her. And she says to him, like, the last words is, you do understand. We also get this last part where Amy leaves the house, says thanks for being here and all that. And that, like I said, that's pretty much the end of Amy's story in this. And like I said, I think she shows up like maybe once or twice more in this season, and then she's done. And I love that actress. You should watch her on HBO's show The Deuce. She was really good on that as well. Also in Boardwalk Empire, she was really good in that. I think she was only in maybe 1 or 2 episodes, but anyway, that's Cairo. Patty is dead. She's leaving Kevin to clean up the mess. Jill has gone to Lori. Nora knows that Jill had the gun, and the guilty remnant are planning their worst thing ever. And I say worst thing because, everything that they are doing is a complete violation. And that one thing people don't like being is having their ideas pushed on you. Like if somebody else's ideas or ideals pushed on them. People push back. And in this case, from the very first episode, when the riot practically broke out at the celebration of the departure, we can see where this is all headed. And it's not good for anyone. And it makes you wonder why you watch this show, but I just find it all fascinating. And somehow therapeutic, in a way. But anyway, hopefully take 2 here wasn't as bad. I know that in my heart, take 1 of this video was way better than this. I wish I could have aired it for you, but I tell you, I don't know what happened. The audio, I don't know how the audio from another video got on this, but it did. And I don't think you want to hear the Marauders review on top of me talking about The Leftovers. But if you did like this version of the review, not that you'd ever see the original actually, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe if you feel like it. If you feel like hitting like, we're only about 43 subscribers away from 1,000, so I'm hoping that we can get to 1,000 before the end of the year. We've got just under 2 months before that happens. So come join the fun here at Smirking Gun Reviews. We've got comic reviews. We've got the Outer Worlds game to play. We've got all sorts of... We've got The Leftovers. We've got Doctor Who. We've got Doom Patrol, Batman the Animated Series, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., we're doing The Mandalorian starting Tuesday. We've got Crime Story from 1986, the Michael Mann Monster Show we're reviewing. So there's all sorts of stuff to watch on the channel, and if you go through the playlist, there's probably something for you. The Expanse, Better Call Saul, all sorts of stuff. Handmaid's Tale. So anyway, this is Rob saying thanks for watching this video. Hopefully you'll be back next week for episode 9, and have a great night. And yeah, here I am. This is classic me. I forget how to end the video. Have a great night. Bye.